Hi, I'm Dr. Linda Silbert, and welcome to Getting Ready for the Holidays. For the people that were with me a month ago, getting ready for school, I welcome you back. And for the people who have just joined us for the first time, I want to thank you, along with our other people that were with us last time. I want to thank you so much for taking the time out to be here today. And I'd like to also thank you for being a Jewish educator. It's a very important role, so be pretty proud of yourself. What we're going to do today, getting ready for the holidays, we're going to follow the Strong Learning System. And I created this system because teachers are more important than they realize. You are the CEO of your classroom. And if you're the educational director, you're the CEO of your school. Now, the letter CEO, in this case, what we've put together is C stands for you create the environment that is conducive to learning. You, the teacher, the educational director, it's your responsibility to create this environment. The E is that you're going to engage all children by making the learning, especially for the holidays, which we're focusing on today, exciting and fun. The O stands for, which everything in life usually has some obstacles. What are the obstacles that are going to prevent some children from learning about the obstacles? So let's look for a second just at you create the environment. What does this mean? I'll read it with you. The climate you create in your classroom will create the feelings your students associate with the holidays today and the future. Now and in the future. You are an important significant other, which means, I explained this last workshop, in a child's life, the people that they look up to, the most important significant others, are mom, dad, the other family members, and then the teachers. You don't realize the power you hold. So things that you say and do will be very meaningful to each child, and each one has an impact. So here's some things that teachers say and do during the holidays. And you may say, oh, I've always done that. Oh, you know what? Didn't think of doing that. But these have a very positive impact on children. Okay, teachers say, have a good year. Lashana Tova, have a sweet year. What does this mean? Maybe stop and say to the children, why are we saying that to each other at this point? Okay, teachers serve apples and honey. By the way, I have to tell you, my first year I was a principal of an after-school Hebrew school, and I served apples and honey, and I had little bowls of honey, go to every class, and the children selected their own piece of apple, and they dipped it in the honey. After the first year, you can all be sitting there right now, I can just about imagine laughing, I learned you dip the apple into the honey and hand the apple to the child, because the little ones were dipping the entire hand into the honey. Before I knew it, it was on the desks, it was on the chairs, it was down the hall, down the steps, the banister. And the custodian in our synagogue, we were quite a small synagogue, we had one custodian, he was waiting to see me the next time I walked into the synagogue because he had a mess to clean up. In my wildest dreams, I didn't realize it was going to be all over the temple. We had a very sweet year that year, but we did learn. Next year, we cut up the apples, we dipped it in the honey, and we handed it out. Moving on, teachers email or mail their students and the parents a Happy New Year card, so the child feels, wow, I'm pretty important. My teacher even sent me something. Students share what they do during the holidays with their own families, where they go. A lot of teachers talk about, did anything happen last year funny at your holiday celebration? And then, of course, the food. We're very big on food. Jews all know that. And we all share recipes on what we ate and what we like. Tegluch seems to be loved by many and said by many, what a tegluch, what are you talking about? That's a great, wonderful way to start the new year. Eating tegluch, which is basically, if you're not sure, it's honey on little rolled pieces of dough. Okay, most of you are going, yeah, I know that. And probably some of you make it. I do not. Moving on now to the CEO, the E. The teacher engages the students. So how do you do this? How do you engage the students? Okay, because how you engage your students in your classroom or in your school will determine the knowledge and the skills that they will acquire about the holidays, which they will think about today and again in the future. For example, making the New Year cards with the children in the class, and they're deciding, I want this for Grandma, I want this one for Grandpa, I want that. Thinking about who do I want to wish to have a good, sweet New Year. Making challahs. I know when I've been at meetings with other educational directors and teachers, everyone's sharing their recipes on the best challah or where they bought the best challah. Challah covers a great, great activity, and then the child has this every year in their home. And they have that feeling, I made this together in school. They'll remember sitting and deciding what they're going to put on their challah cover. Holiday pictures, mobiles, dioramas, songs, all the familiar songs that you start singing in school before the holidays, and the stories. Children love stories, and if you read the same one again and again, it's really good. Children love that they know what's going to happen next, and it makes them feel good. Now we move on to the CEO. O. The teacher has to overcome obstacles. What is the biggest obstacle for most teachers around this time of the year? You have to teach so much. It's an obstacle in all Hebrew schools, day schools, after school Hebrew schools. It's always one of our biggest obstacles, and it's having enough time. We just simply don't have enough time. So what I've done and what I did in the past and what I still recommend to different schools, find out what the children know so that you're not teaching the same thing year after year after year and you're repeating and the kids are sitting, they're looking out the window. Find out what they know about the holidays. Focus on lessons then that address the rituals, symbols, the vocabulary that the majority of the kids in your class need to learn. Go online and research lessons and projects that fit your needs and your time restrictions. Be creative. I don't want to spend these 45 minutes going through all the different arts and craftsy and all the different cooking things that we do, because you can all go online and do this, and you'll find it. So I'm trying to focus in on what you can do when you don't have enough time. So the first thing I'm going to say, the strong learning system that respects every CEO recommends before you ever begin teaching anything, find out where the child is. Sometimes you start teaching something and it's way above their heads, or you start teaching something that they already know they learned the year before. So I've put together just these little questionnaires, and at the end of the webinar, you'll be able to download them. Okay, you just go and you'll download the webinar. You'll download the questionnaire. And I'm going to have a lot of these for you. So at the very end, I'll show you exactly how to do this. Okay, the questionnaire to learn what your students know about the high holy days. Let's begin with Rosh Hashanah. For example, Rosh Hashanah begins on the first day of the month of. And ask this. You can, if it's little ones, you can ask them if they're third grade, and above. Print these up. You can just download them from our website, and you'll just hand them out. And I gave a little word box at the bottom so children can look to see where do they put these words to fill in the questionnaire. In no time, you're going to know what your class knows about Rosh Hashanah, and you'll say, "Wow, they never even heard of that." Okay, let me go to that. Talk to the other teachers. If other teachers in your school give the same questionnaire, you'll say, okay, so many did not know this. So many did know this. You may even divide the classes up. And I know next week starts the holidays. You're going, when am I going to do this? Okay, we have time. We start, but we don't finish till Simchas Torah. Okay, we start now with these very important holidays, but we have time to talk about the holidays all throughout, right up through Simchas Torah. And that's why take these questionnaires. The next one is on Yom Kippur. And we have all different types of questions here, so you're going to find out exactly what your children know. Again, don't worry, you're going to be able to download these at the very end. Then I go to Sukkot, okay? Like Sukkot occurs during the season of blank, when the ancient Jewish people gathered crops from the fields. Most kids, not all, but many of them, let's say, when I'll talk to them, like in 3rd grade, 4th grade, 5th grade, what is Sukkot? Well, we go into the sukkah, but we first make chains in the classroom, the construction paper, and we make paper chains, and we're going into the sukkah, and then we have snack there. But why do we have the sukkahs? What's the reason? There'll always be a few children going to go, I know. Whether they learned it the year before, they learned it at home, or grandma or grandpa read them a story. Somewhere along the way they picked it up. But many of the children do not. They know what they do at Hebrew school. They know what the whole routine will be, but they may not really know why they're doing it. A lulav, okay, what is it? The etrog, what are we doing with these things? Why? Again, teach it. Talk to your fellow teachers and find out what each one is teaching or which level. And when you're working on your curriculum, decide which grade level should we put all this into, because we just realized we gave this questionnaire. They don't know these things. They just know they're going to have their snack in the sukkah. Simchas Torah. Again, what is Simchas Torah? Why are we going to read the Torah all over again? Why are we starting from scratch? We know we come to temple and we march around holding Torahs and we sing, and it's a very frail time. But find out, what do they know, especially the older ones. You don't know what they've picked up. The little ones, you start again with books, with all these different things to do during Hebrew school. So that's the beginning of the strong learning system, whether you're teaching the holidays, whether you're teaching anything, whether you're starting to do phonics or history. Find out what they know. Because if you teach the same thing that they learned the year before, or they picked up from someone, they're not learning. And your goal always is to set a goal. What is it that I want them to learn? Well, getting ready for the holidays, focusing on these 4 important holidays, you want them to learn the symbols, you want them to learn the history, you want them to learn the vocabulary. You have to learn what they know. Okay, so now, that's the first part of the strong learning system. Know your student. And know your student, and that's actually after you create the environment. Okay, you create that environment conducive to learning. Because, again, you're the CEO. Now we're up to the point. You have to engage them. How are you going to engage all the children? We're now going to focus on the engagement, that part of the CEO. You've created the environment, and now we've talked about how do you engage them and the obstacles, which we all know is timing. So I'm going to focus on getting ready for the holidays, on this problem we have with time. We just don't have enough. So I think let's focus on school-wide activities. This way, each teacher is not working on the same thing in the class. One's doing one thing, one's doing something else, or sometimes they're doing the same thing. Work on school-wide activities. And I'll give you some examples that really have worked, and they're just so much fun. Because there's so many advantages of this. Number one, I'm going to go a little slower now. You don't have to create individual lesson plans. Okay, so the teacher, you're not all making up a lesson on the same thing. As teachers, work together and come up with something that you feel will work for your school. It creates school pride. Okay, so many children just go, especially the after-school Hebrew schools, they know they have to go to Hebrew school after school. And it's a tough time. First of all, it's 4 o'clock in the afternoon. That universally is the time of day when most people around the world are tired. That's the time, 4 o'clock. So we're saying to these little children, okay, now you finish school, have your snack, run around a little, let's go back to school. And it's a tough situation. Well, you all know, I don't have to say it. Not only are the children tired, so are the teachers. So now, let them come to school and they're working on something that they're all working on together. Okay, and it gives you the sense of pride. It creates camaraderie between classes. It's not, because so many times you can't socialize if you're third grade or fourth grade or fifth grade, or you're with those few kids in your class. This way, you can meet new children. You'll be all working together. Each child's feeling of self-worth will grow because as being part of the school and temple community. Now, I don't know how many are listening that have taken education or psychology courses and remember Abraham Maslow back in the 50s and 60s. For a few that know, just you're shaking your heads. And for some people that have not been introduced to him, he was up at Harvard, and he came up with a book and a whole theory of human development. And what he does, he has stages of development from birth, and he goes into 65, 70 years old, when you finally hit self-actualization. But he starts at the very beginning with safety. Okay, the basic needs he talks about. One of the most basic needs in human nature is the need to belong. You belong to a family. The family is critical. Okay, that family unit. And children learn, and this is grandma, and this is my other grandma, and this is grandpa, and this is the other grandpa, and history about each person in the family. Okay, the extended plus the nuclear family is critical. And that's the belonging. The next place a child belongs to is where? School. Okay? Some kids love school. They love it. And they go to school, and they're so proud to be in that school. Hebrew school is another school. Okay, so you want that child to feel part of your synagogue, part of your school. And there's that need, Abraham Maslow's need of belonging to a school. Then it becomes actually your community, then your state, and eventually your country. That's the whole thing of belonging. But now this is very basic. We have the family. They have their regular day school or public school or another private school. And for the children going to after-school Hebrew schools, this has to become part of them, and that they're an important part of this, and eventually will become and realize they're an important part of the whole synagogue and the Jewish community. So working on school-wide activities, it's number 1, 2, 3, 4. The fourth bullet down is a critical bullet that I'm talking about, an element of child development. Okay, the next one, and this plays into it also, their artwork, their creativity, their thoughts are on display for the whole congregation to see. When you go in for Friday night or Saturday services, they can run over with mommy and daddy, with their siblings or grandpa. Look, that's my part of this family project, especially when there's murals. They love that, to run over to show them. And finally, they're just plain fun. It is fun to do when you're working on an entire school-wide activity. So let's talk about some of them. For Rosh Hashanah. Okay, we're 1 week from Rosh Hashanah. You can actually do this. I've done this in the past. The Sunday, if it's an after-school Hebrew school, the Sunday between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. It's a wonderful time to do this. And you may have enough time to pull it together, or next year you can do it. Or you may wait and do it another time of the year, especially during the fall season at some point. What you do, and I gotta tell you, it's just a lot of fun. You have everyone in this school, all the parents, all the children, grandma and grandpa. So I keep saying that, but I think that extended family is critical. And I think the children have more significant others, people that they perceive like them, that they're part of that family. Make school tzedakah boxes. Here's what you do. And it could be everybody. You can, if you have one big room or any large room you have, set up tables, and the parents come in. You don't really have to supply anything. It costs you nothing. The parents come in, the families. It'll be their tzedakah box. Each family, it's some kids may say, no, I'm in 5th grade and my brother or sister's in 1st grade. I don't want to make this anymore. That's fine. It doesn't matter. You may want to separate like that, or the whole family works on it. Each family, if you're reading this, you bring in an empty food can. You can bring in an empty tin. A recycled coffee tins are really good sizes. People have brought in cereal boxes. Bring in whatever the parent wants. Okay, whatever the family decides on. They bring it in, and they bring in all these supplies that you can share with the other people at your table. Okay, and you can go from all these material fabrics and paints and buttons. People have brought in buttons, whatever it is that you glue on to this container, and you make your own tzedakah box at the table. At the end of this activity, everybody takes their own tzedakah box or boxes home. At the end of the school year, you have another school-wide tzedakah day, and everyone brings them back in. And you add up all the money that you've collected. And together, as a school, you vote on what you'd like to give, which organization, who do you want to give this money to, how do you want to use it. The children, it's unbelievable how they get involved. Every year I did this. I mean, it went from community charities to sports to Cancer Fund to the Heart Fund to arthritis, diabetes, to Jewish organizations, JNF, and they voted. And most of the time what we did was we would come up with 3 or 4 different ones. And then they knew their tzedakah money was going to some organization. It's not only a wonderful lesson to teach the kids, it creates that school harmony, family unity, and they're learning about tzedakah. Next, another one that you can do, which is a really fun school-wide activity. You make a mural. As I said, kids love murals. And find a hallway, find somewhere in your school in order to make the mural. And the teachers decide if you want to come out together, that you'll say at such and such time, on such and such day, we all come out in the hall together, so all the kids are near each other. And what you do, you separate the mural. And you decide which class is doing this or which one's doing that. And you're going to focus on all the holidays. So together, maybe the staff at the school, the teachers, whoever, you decide which holidays you want to use. The most important, you may want to throw in some smaller holidays. We have a holiday card game that just came out, Intro to Holidays, 24 holidays throughout the year. It was incredible when you realize, I mean, it's a lot of work being Jewish. There's a lot of things to do. There's a lot of holidays. You may just want to focus on Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, I mean, your top holidays. Or some of the classes may say, no, I want to work on this holiday. Do this entire mural, then have a day when you invite everybody in. Again, I keep pushing the family. Pull them back in, because so many times we end up, the children go through that door into that Hebrew school or the synagogue, and the parents out in the car, and they'll pick them up. To become Jewish and to have that feeling of Judaism and to go out the door 13 and come back, the revolving door back when you're 13 in one day, that's our focus. That's what we want. And so having the whole family come in and that feeling of togetherness and warmth is wonderful. You get the parent into the building and become part of the child's education. Now when they come in and you have a whole viewing and each class is explaining their part of the mural as the people walk by, like in a museum when they stop at their section, you also have a refreshment table. And on the refreshment table, you have the year of Jewish flavors. And it begins with honey cake, again, teglach, you obviously know I like them. You continue with all your different foods, okay? And it's usually desserts, all these different types of desserty type things. I'm always throwing a challah, though, which is not a dessert, but you have your hamantash, and you can put out for, it's hard to make the potato pancakes during it, so get donuts for the oil. So that's, use the donuts, and explain that in Israel, they use donuts. And put out food for the whole year. So those are the refreshments. It is so much fun. I have to share with you, one year what happened to us. We did this whole thing, and I actually put on a whole play with the kids. It began with the shofar blowing, and we did a whole year of Jewish flavors. And I ordered from the local bakery all this food to set everything up. And while we're inside and the play's going on, one of the parents walks up to me quietly, and she says, "We have a problem. We just opened the box for all the food, and there's a big sheet cake in the box saying congratulations to Tony and Marie on their 25th anniversary." And I'm sitting with her, and we're going, oh my, what do we do? And then what we did, it was fine. It was a huge sheet cake. We cut it up in little squares. Nobody knew what was on it. Everybody was happy. And then suddenly I thought about Tony and Marie. Picture what's going on at the anniversary party when they open up the big box, and they have hamantash and they have honey cake, etc. So anyway, the bakery did hear from us early that Monday morning. We didn't have cell phones yet, and they were a little devastated. I said, just warning you, as soon as you get your phone call from Tony and Marie, for us it worked out, we were fine. It's not what I wanted, but it worked. Anyway, that's a great, fun thing. The mural, a play, a whole year of Jewish flavors, and incorporate the food. Okay, the next activity is for the sukkah. And again, as I said, you're always schlepping all the paper chains and all the construction paper. Have the kids bring things in from home. This way, again, they're looking for things at home. The parents are involved. They're calling people up. Do you have this? I'm going to bring this in. I want this in there. And also remember the outside of the sukkah. The only difference is they have to be waterproof. Okay, that's the only difference in case it starts to rain. But have them all decorate the sukkah. Then, most kids know they're going to have snack during the day. They'll always go back down to the sukkah of the snack. Have an actual dinner and sleepover. Depending on the size of your temple, you all may not be able to fit in the sukkah at the same time. And most, even if it's a small temple, you can't. So usually you have food in the sukkah. Usually you'll have dessert maybe in the sukkah. Or you go in or people take turns going in, different classes going at different times. And then, of course, have the temple set up one main room to have all the food. The other thing, include it with a sleepover. And it would be kind of fun if the kids could sleep in the sukkah, and maybe you make it just the oldest kids every year, the only ones that can stay in the sukkah, and all the kids know by the time they get to that class, your 6th, 7th grades, they'll have a turn at a sleepover. And so in the sleepovers, and then of course you'll eat breakfast the next morning. So it's just fun, an experience the kids will always remember, that feeling of Judaism. And it's intergenerational again. Big, you've got to have enough volunteers. And again, get as many parents and grandparents as possible. Moving on to another fun activity, have a school-wide homemade Torah exhibit. A lot of schools make menorahs. We always used to have a menorah exhibit, but we also had a Torah exhibit. And the children at home can do this, or you can do it in the class. It's up to the teachers how you want to work this, and the educational directors deciding how they're going to do this. And you can use paper, cloth, food, box, it's been amazing to see what people think of. It's really incredible to see how creative some of the people are. And then during Simchas Torah, of course, the children walk around as the parents are kvelling, as the children are walking around holding their own Torahs. The next thing with this, though, another option, and this is for the older kids, it's really amazing. You actually make your own Torah scroll. You'd have to do it in a long hallway somewhere, and you have different sections, and all the directions are right here when you download all these directions. By the way, I forgot to say, everything I'm giving you will all be downloadable at the end of the webinar. You actually make a Torah. And one of the schools, they said they were doing this, and one of the mothers was telling the other mother, no, your children are it's just too messy what they're doing. What you put in different sections, you'll decide. But you can actually take that section of the Torah and then interpret it and write up summaries. And the children can give them to the teacher, to someone, and you'll put it together. And that came from that class. You decide how you want to separate, how you want to decide what to do with it. But it happens to be a wonderful activity for, I'd say, 5th, 6th, 7th. The little ones may be too small, but you know your students better than I do. I'm a teacher. I have a question. You say that what we do and say will affect each child. I don't want to keep saying that you're great if they're not. I feel it's better to tell them what they're doing wrong than to give them credit for something they don't deserve. What do you recommend? First of all, let me just talk about inflated self-esteem. Inflated self-esteem as opposed to constructive criticism. When a child asks to write about something, let's say you ask a child to write about something, and they just give you one sentence. They write, when I say it's a perception how they think you think, if you walk up and go, it's great, but that's really some sentence. They're going to get this inflated self-esteem, and eventually it's going to fall apart. And I may have told the story last time. It's like the mouse that goes to the psychiatrist because he's so afraid of the cat. And the psychiatrist says, you're brave, you're wonderful, don't be afraid of the cat. He feels great. He walks out, cat gets him. The psychiatrist had to give him skills to get away from the cat. You have to give the child skills on how to write. If they write something and it really is unacceptable, again, it's a perception. You don't have to say, this is horrible, I'm not accepting this. Go sit down. That's what you're going to write, right? Instead say, it's really a good beginning. Let's think about it. What else? And come up with your 5 questions. The 5 W's, who's about? Why? What happened here? Write them down because the child's not going to remember what you said. Write it down. Let them they don't know how to write. Most of them truly don't know what to write. They may think it's great. Don't put them down because they won't write, because they will perceive I'm a stupid kid. I'm not a good writer. Walk with them. Work with them. Okay? Let me just see the next question. Hang in there. Okay. I'm an educational director. I've tried doing school-wide activities. It's usually a failure. I'm afraid of going near them again. Their school-wide activities save time, are a lot of fun, create camaraderie. They're a wonderful activity to pull the parents into the school, and that's what you want. You want the families there. You want this feeling of belonging. But they have to be organized, very organized, and they have to be created with all the teachers. If the educational director decides we're having a mural, we're doing this, we're doing that, we'll have to go now, we have to be part of the play. The teachers will start to resent it. And if you're sitting there as a teacher, you say, I know. My person just did that to me, and I have too much to do. Who are they to tell me I have to go do this now? I can't. As educational directors, have meetings, weekly meetings. It could be Sunday for 15, 20 minutes at the end of school. You have to work with the teachers. You have to hear the teachers, listen to the teachers. And on the other hand, teachers listen to the directors. You're working together. One is creating, they're the CEO of the school, okay, and the teachers are the CEOs of the classrooms. But you have to work together, otherwise it is going to be a failure. It's not going to work. Let's go through. You'll be able to download here the webinar. The first one we did, it's right up on YouTube, and you can take them. They take you directly there. Then this webinar, if you want to see it again, you can download it again. You'll have the questionnaires to download and give to your classes to see what they know about Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, Sukkot, and Simchas Torah. And you will also have all the activities. So have a wonderful, wonderful New Year. Enjoy it, a healthy, happy, and a very sweet New Year. Thank you for joining us, and I'll see you at our next webinar. Bye-bye.